Right now, when someone you love dies, you have a funeral home, a grief counselor, a support group, 100 books telling you how to process loss, and you still feel like nobody understands what you're going through. So here's a question nobody thinks to ask. What did ancient humans do with grief? Not medieval humans, not ancient Greeks, not even early farmers. We're going back further than that. 60,000 years, maybe more. Back when there was no religion as we'd recognize it, no funerals, no priests, no promise of an afterlife, just people standing over a body with nothing to say. The answer changes everything we think we know about love, memory, and why losing someone still breaks you the exact same way it broke a human 60,000 years ago. But first, did ancient humans even grieve? For a long time, scientists assumed the answer was no. Early humans, the thinking went, were too focused on survival to waste energy mourning. A dead body was a liability. Leave it, move on, keep hunting. That assumption turned out to be wrong. Very wrong. In 1960, archaeologist Ralph Selecki was excavating a cave in northern Iraq called Shanidar. Inside, he found the remains of a Neanderthal, buried deliberately, and around the body an unusual concentration of ancient pollen. Selecki's controversial conclusion was that the body had been buried with flowers. Actual flowers laid over a corpse 60,000 years ago by a species most people picture as grunting brutes who barely qualified as human. Later researchers pushed back on some of the details, arguing the pollen might have come from burrowing rodents rather than mourners. But the debate itself tells you something important. Scientists could not simply dismiss the idea, because everything else at that site pointed the same direction. Deliberate burial. A body placed in a specific position. Care taken with someone who could no longer take care of themselves. This wasn't an isolated case. At sites across Europe and the Middle East, going back tens of thousands of years, archaeologists keep finding the same pattern. Bodies buried with ochre, a red pigment with no practical use except decoration. Bodies buried with tools they wouldn't need anymore. Bodies buried with shell necklaces, curled into positions that look almost like sleep. Someone took the time to do this. Someone who had every reason to just walk away and didn't. So the question isn't whether ancient humans grieved. The question is what grief actually did for them. And for us. Let's start with the strangest part. Grief doesn't just live in humans. In 2013, biological anthropologist Barbara King spent years documenting what she called animal grief, cataloging elephants standing motionless over the bones of dead herd members for days, chimpanzees carrying dead infants for weeks, refusing to let go even as the body decomposed. King's argument was careful. She wasn't claiming animals grieve exactly like humans do, but she was arguing that grief isn't a uniquely human invention layered on top of biology. It's older than us. It's something evolution built into any creature capable of forming deep attachment. That word, attachment, matters more than it sounds like it should. In the 1950s, psychiatrist John Bowlby was trying to understand why infants became so distressed when separated from their caregivers, even briefly. His research became the foundation of what's now called attachment theory. Bowlby's core idea was simple and, at the time, radical. Humans are biologically wired to form intense bonds with specific individuals, and the nervous system treats the loss of that bond as something close to physical danger. Not sadness. Danger, your body doesn't distinguish neatly between a predator and a permanent absence. Both trigger the same ancient alarm. This is why grief doesn't feel like an emotion so much as an injury. Because as far as your nervous system is concerned, it is one. Think about what that means for a human standing over a body 60,000 years ago. There was no framework for what they were feeling. No word for grief, possibly. No ritual passed down from anyone, because someone had to invent the first one. And yet the flowers still got placed. The ochre still got applied. The body still got positioned with care instead of dumped. Because the urge to mark a loss, to do something with the unbearable feeling of someone's absence, didn't wait for language or religion to arrive first. It came before both. Here's where it gets even stranger. In 2015, researchers studying grief across different human cultures found something that should have varied wildly and didn't. Nearly every documented culture, separated by oceans, by tens of thousands of years, by completely different belief systems, developed some version of the same three things. A period of mourning, a physical marker, a grave, a monument, a stone, and a story about where the dead person went. Not identical stories, wildly different ones, heavens and underworlds and ancestor spirits and reincarnation, but always a story. Always something to fill the unbearable silence where a person used to be. Psychologist Sherry Cormier, who has spent decades studying bereavement, argues that this isn't coincidence. Grief, left completely unprocessed, doesn't fade. It calcifies. The brain needs somewhere to put an attachment that no longer has anywhere to go. Ritual gives it somewhere to go. A grave becomes a place you can visit the person who no longer exists anywhere else. A story becomes a place their consciousness can continue to exist, even if only inside your own mind. This isn't superstition getting invented out of nowhere. It's the brain solving an engineering problem it never evolved to solve cleanly. Now think about your own life, and the moments that felt like grief long before anyone died. The ache of a friendship that quietly ended. The strange grief of moving away from a childhood home. The disproportionate sadness of finishing a show you'd spent months watching with someone. All of it runs through the exact same ancient circuitry built for something much larger. Your brain doesn't have a separate system for small losses and big ones. It has one system, built 60,000 years ago in a cave, and it fires every time something you were attached to disappears. This is also why grief refuses to follow a schedule, no matter how much modern advice insists it should. There is no 5-stage checklist your nervous system agreed to. There's an ancient alarm that goes off, and a slow, uneven process of your brain rewriting its map of the world to account for someone's absence. Sometimes that takes weeks. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it never fully finishes, and instead just gets folded quietly into who you become next. Here's the part nobody talks about. Modern grief is, in some ways, harder than ancient grief, not easier. 60,000 years ago, loss happened inside a tribe of maybe 150 people, all of whom felt it too. Everyone grieved together, in the open, with rituals the whole group participated in. Today, grief often happens alone. In an apartment, scrolling a phone, expected to return to work within a week, surrounded by people who have no idea anything happened at all. The ritual didn't disappear because humans stopped needing it. It disappeared because modern life stopped making space for it. So the next time grief hits you and it feels disproportionate or badly timed or embarrassing in how long it's lingering, remember what you're actually looking at. Not a personal failure to move on. Not weakness. An ancient, universal response present in elephants standing over bones, in chimpanzees carrying their dead, in a Neanderthal laying flowers over a body 60,000 years before anyone wrote the word grief down. You're not broken for feeling it this deeply. You're running the exact same program a human ran the very first time they understood with total clarity that someone they loved was never coming back. 60,000 years ago. Someone stood in a cave holding flowers they couldn't explain the meaning of. And somewhere, right now, someone is doing the exact same thing, just without the flowers, and without knowing why it still hurts this much.